Hey guys, my name is Jose Sanchez. I'm the developer of Blockhood, and this is gonna be the first video, the video blog, where we're gonna be documenting the development of Blockhood. I'm gonna show you today where we are with the project, the current features, as we are entering the Greenlight. So please vote for us in the Greenlight, and if you like what you see today, make sure to vote and follow the project. So I'm going to show you a bit of the features that we have and how we kind of like looking at the future and where the project wants to be in the next months and by the end of the year. So currently we have been working mainly on the sandbox mode, right? The sandbox mode is the complete mode, the complete game that allows you to play with all the blocks available, and it's a survival game. But we also have education. It's going to be like a more extensive tutorials of the game, and it's going to be using real world scenarios. And challenge, which is going to be like people have been asking, how does the puzzle really fit into this kind of city building game, right? The challenges are going to be the answer for that, because they will have specific targets, objectives that you need to do, some of them with time, some of them with different resources, or like a subset of units that you need to work with. So they're really going to be like a challenge and the puzzle mode of the game. But for now we're going to just be looking at sandbox. So here we go. So this is Blockhood. As you can see here, I'm moving with my mouse. We have a small tutorial showing you several of the features and how things work, and basically I'm going to just be explaining some of that here. So the UI allows you to basically do everything you need, but we also have a few shortcuts, right? So you see there's several things that you can just do with shortcuts that makes it much easier. This is a fully three-dimensional game, as you can see here, right? So you can rotate around. You also the game has a daylight system and also a season system, so you're going to start seeing that the background starts changing color, and that's because night will start coming in, and then also different seasons are going to change, right? So let's zoom in a little bit and let's start seeing what we can do. We basically have three main modes: create mode, inspect mode, and delete mode, right? You see that we went into nighttime. And here you have an inventory of what you can create, and you can just basically create as much as you want at any point. There's no limit of what you can create. We have a different mechanic that would control in some degree what you're doing and how you're managing things. So let's get started by looking a little bit into this panel, right? So if you look into the inventory panel, you'll see the tooltip showing you what each unit needs, right? A unit will have both inputs and outputs. So for instance, a tree will need some water as an input to create some fresh air, right? But right now we might wonder, like, do we have water? And it's something that you can check here in your tab of resources, your resource tab. So basically we don't. We only have a bit of money, right? So we'll see what we can do with that. So if we could create a tree anyway, right? The only problem would be is that that tree, if we inspect it, will say, hey, I don't have enough water to produce fresh air. So you could still have it there, but it's not producing fresh air for you. This tree will slowly start decaying, right? Because it doesn't have water. You'll see this little circle here, red circle, right? It's telling you, hey, there's a problem here, there's an error. You cannot afford this tree, really. You're having it anyway, but you cannot afford it. So it will slowly die, right? So we'll see that happening probably soon. So what do we have? We have money. We could do things like we have this water tower that uses money to convert money into water. It's the idea that you can import water into the system. So let's add a few of these water towers here. And you'll see here the shadows that are kind of animated as the day passes, and you're going to see how that eventually becomes night. So yeah, very nice features. And you'll see that now we start having a bit of water, right? And the trees started producing fresh air, right? And these arrows show us is the resource going up or down based on their previous state, right? So if like money was in a higher value before and it starts going down, so you could basically you're free to create whatever you want. It's just that in some point things are gonna start dying, so be careful with that. So let's create some energy. We're gonna create some windmills. And you see I'm gonna, with right click, I can just quickly switch into inspect mode and see how these windmills are operating. So they need a bit of money as maintenance and they will produce electricity. I could also rotate them with the right click again, so I could locate them the way I want. And now I can basically, I'm going to create a bit more like a green area here. We're doing this click and hold creation mode that allows us to avoid mistakes, right? You could delete things and go back, but we realized that just by having this kind of click and hold, you commit your action and you put a bit more emphasis of what you're trying to do. So yeah, that's it. And you can see these white circles that are showing that this particular tile is actually has enough inputs, right? So if it's a white circle, it's fine. If you see a red circle, there's a problem, right? You can also hide the circles, and I'm going to press C. That's a shortcut for hiding the circles, but they're helpful at the beginning to understand how the game works, right? Now you see that we change season. We enter the fall season. Basically, there were 2 days that you spent in the summer season and you went into fall. We're gonna do that in this build. Those are just 2 days. I think that the final build we're targeting maybe 4 to 5 days per season to have a cycle through the different kind of color themes, and those hopefully would be also affecting the production of resources, so they will have a multiplier over how resources are generated. One of the main things that we really need is corridors, because one of the big modules that we have not implemented in the game yet, but it's coming, is people. People would be walking around, and for that you would actually need corridors. So you see we created these corridors, and now I'm going to just be creating basically some commerce. I'm going to just rotate this thing around, and let's create a little cafe here, right? And maybe a shop. So you see we have those shops, and this guy needs a consumer. Maybe it's a bit difficult to see there. It needs a consumer and labor, and we don't have those. And this one needs vegetables and electricity and consumer. So well, a lot of stuff that we don't have. So let's try to create, if we look at the flat here, a small flat would actually produce labor and consumer, right? So we can just locate a flat on top of the cafe, and we can do a couple of those. And you see that the lights of the flat turn on based on the nighttime. So this guy is fine. It has fresh air, electricity, and water, and it will produce labor. That we could use labor for being able to work on some of the shops. It will also produce gray water, which is like dirty water, right? And we need to process that dirty water. And organic waste. We need a way of dealing with organic waste. That's good. We need vegetables. So there's a kind of a clever way. So for instance, here, an algae farm would actually use like gray water, so dirty water, into clean water. It will clean the water and it will produce algae. So let's create a little kind of algae farm somewhere here. Maybe a couple of those. So as we know that these guys are going to be producing gray water, maybe we don't need so much, so we can just go and delete one of them, right? But we also want to produce something like vegetables, so maybe we use a hydroponic farm, and we can use a hydroponic farm that would actually produce, in this case, using a bit of water, vegetables. So our shop, whoops, There we go. Our shop will be able to have vegetables, right? So basically that's the way you start playing the game. You'll see, oh, this guy needs a lot of gray water, so maybe it was a bit premature for us. Wow, what happened there? So this is what happens when something doesn't have enough resources, right? This guy basically collapsed, and we can delete it, and maybe that's not too troublesome, but it really becomes a big issue when you have a lot of tiles, and especially when the tiles just below you start breaking. So I'm gonna delete that guy, and you might wonder, it's like, well, how do I know how my tiles are doing? Well, you can actually go into this data mode, and you switch to this mode to check how your tiles are doing, right? So if they're white, they're fine. If they're red, they're about to explode. And they can recover if they have enough data to recover. So it's always handy to switch to that mode. You can use the control key, the shortcut 9, to switch between views, right? So again, we are in night. We're gonna see how the buildings light up. There's different units that light up in different ways. So for instance, we could actually do, I'm gonna put a little kind of neon sign on the top here. I'm gonna create a few corridors here. You have to get used to the idea of how the placement, the 3D placement, it's always a bit tricky. We have a few tools that help you with that. So you see that I think we're running out of money, right? Yes, we're running out of money. That's making that many of these tiles that require some maintenance will be broken. So I'm basically not playing well at the game right now. I just want to show you what you could do. But yeah, you're basically at a point in which you're running out of a particular resource, and this is where you're going to start failing, and things are going to start breaking, and potentially like you could have a ripple effect and lose everything. That's what you're trying to avoid. But it shouldn't be so difficult. The variables have been tuned to kind of map into each other, so the degree of difficulty grows as you are building more and more. Just because the unit will start, you see that basically we run out of resources. So this is kind of a game over situation. You don't really get a game over. You just get this where things are broken, and you can start deleting and kind of cleaning up. But you might as well want to start over, right? And start considering a bit better how to resource manage the situation. I'm gonna leave it here. I just wanted to show you a bit more, hopefully, how at nighttime these kind of different units glow in a different way. And I think we'll leave you with that.